Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Becky Plautz. She is host of Choose on Purpose podcast, which is very exciting. She is also an empowerment speaker, a photographer. I am the worst when it comes to reading my own writing. I should have been a doctor. And I just read this. Growth connection strategist and owner of the virtual co-work space and community, Work on Purpose with a Purpose. Welcome to the show, Becky. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Jill. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So what do you actually do in your coaching? I just read your title on there, the breakthrough boudoir photography. That sounds kind of interesting also, so we'll have to talk about that too.
Yeah, it's kind of all together. It's all of my passions in one place. Everything that I am about is to elevate, connect, and really be a champion for women to be seen, heard, and known for the impact that we make in our world. And I do that through my photography podcast and the personal growth community, Work on Purpose with Purpose.
I love that. It's so much better when you're doing what you're supposed to do and knowing what your purpose is. And so how do you help people find their purpose? Is that kind of what you do?
I wouldn't say that I help people find their purpose, but so my background is that I am a photographer. So first and foremost, I got here by starting as a photographer. I was wrongfully fired from a retail job that I left saying, screw the man, I'm gonna, make my own way, figure my own schedule, and work with people I want to work with. And after I licked my wounds from that experience, I had the question asked of what would I do if I could do anything? What would that be? And it was I would take pictures. And the extent of my experience at that point, just to give you some perspective, was I knew that I loved taking a point and shoot crank camera that you get from the store down to the local grocery store to get developed. That's what I knew I loved, was just capturing the moment. So my background in photography led me to finding the niche of boudoir photography to empower women to really see themselves in a new way and perspective of the power that we have and the confidence that we continue to build. And I learned quickly how mindset was so important in having your photograph taken, really seeing yourself and being able to have, that confidence in who you are right now, not 20 pounds from now, and not when you get that accomplishment that you have, but that you're worthy right now. And that's kind of where the real shift for me happened in my business, was understanding how much the mindset needed to pair with my photography. And I was drawn to that. So I created an experience for my clients. And that's where the breakthrough boudoir really comes in now, is honing in on my skill set of connecting with people on a deep level that I can help them really shift with really small incremental changes to build big change in their life. So this is where my personal growth community comes into play as well. And they play well together, because the way that I help people with that avenue is that I give you the space to be able to practice seeing yourself new, having new habits being formed in your daily life, in your work life, and the way that you talk to yourself. And it kind of is a co-work space and connection space for growth-minded women that are, sometimes going for a walk in their day, sometimes cutting up vegetables, or, creating a blog that they've been putting off in their business that they've really wanted to share, but had a mental block about what they wanted to do with that. So that's another way outside of photography and being in person. Virtually in the community is really how I support people in that community space, to be able to have others that are doing things that feel challenging, doing things that feel out of our comfort zone, and we're kind of in a normalizing space to be able to say that we're congratulating you, that we're championing you on to making progress, and celebrating those wins as they come, even when they feel small. The consistency is key in that. So that's kind of how, like, a really quick overview of how my work kind of comes together to really support people holistically.
Yeah, I can see that a lot. And when you talk about, just the little incremental steps in changing how you talk to yourself, but I think one of the big things is recognizing the things that you are saying to yourself, and deciding if they serve you or not. Because often we can go along and realize that, this really isn't, having these thoughts, and you have them every day, aren't serving my best interest, my highest interest, and choosing to have better thoughts. But if you're not around people who have better thoughts, you might not know what those better thought options are.
Yeah, a fun a fun thing that kind of happens consistently in the community when new people come in. So just to give you a quick overview about what I'm talking about, they're called action hours in our co-work space. So the first and last 10 minutes of time is in community, and then the 40 minutes in the hour is for you to go do your intention, what you said you were going to go and do. And in that, we have the ability to change direction and make different choices. And when someone's sharing their celebration, because we always start out in celebration and get the energy going in a positive direction. And then when we hear someone shooting on themselves about what they need to go and get done, and they feel that pressure, we lovingly remind them, you have the choice to decide if this is the time that you want to do that. And then, they have the opportunity to work through changing their wording for themselves to say, okay, can you get excited about doing this, because your intention and how you're about to go do that thing really matters. If you're dreading it and you're really just forcing yourself to do something, how does that tend to work out for you? Is kind of where we get the opportunity to have that growth mindset really help us change, the momentum in our days.
I think that really applies to everything we do, not just like work related.
Absolutely.
If you're having apprehension about, I don't know, doing the laundry, maybe now is not the time you should be doing the laundry. Maybe you should just like sit with that feeling and see what it is that you should be doing, or you might be doing, what your options are, and choose something that feels more aligned with the energy that you have in the moment, rather than it's Saturday morning and I have to get this laundry done.
Yeah, that's really the premise, right? Of saying the community is called work on purpose with purpose, because we can do something on purpose. We can say we need to go and do that laundry, and I'm gonna, intentionally do it. But then the with purpose follows to say, what is your intent? Like, how is your mindset while you are going to take the action towards that thing that you said you were going to do, whether it's because you feel like you have to, or because you know that you're choosing to do that. The intent in which we do everything is it's energy. So what kind of energy we put into it really makes a difference.
It does. And like I said, in everything that we do, and doing everything with intention, it slows you down in some ways, but it also allows space for the creative spark to happen. When we're rushing through stuff just to get stuff done, the old saying, do it, do do it well once, or keep having to do it
Again,
over,
yeah,
do it again, or
yeah.
something like that. I forgot how it goes. I'm the kind of person that normally I just get stuff done. I think just call me the get her done gal, because you give me a job, I don't procrastinate. Procrastination is not one of my shortcomings in life, but
That's
I will
awesome.
do stuff just to get it done. And
Yeah.
I can always go back later and do it better. That's my motto.
Yeah, that's definitely, I would say, a superpower, when people can tap into really knowing that they are someone that can take the action and know that there's probably room for improvement, but getting it done is better than waiting for it to be, 100% perfect,
And you
so.
learn so much in the process. Often getting started is the hardest thing for most people, because
Right.
they either don't know where to get started, or they know what the first step is, but they're really not certain what the next step is going to look like. And so they're afraid to take that first step to just get going. And if you practice doing that, but doing it with intention, there's a difference between just, rushing through something and saying, okay, I'm going to approach this thing that I want to accomplish, and I give it out to the universe. I don't know how to do this, but I do know the first thing I need to do. The first thing I need to do is this. So just go do that, and then wait, because the next step will become evident to you. It's amazing how, as you step, the universe comes along and makes the ground solid in front of you for the next step, and then the next step. It's in the taking the action that the other things become evident. And I don't know. It
Yeah.
it's it's how to get things done. But if you do them when you're with a purpose, and you really examine how you're doing that first step as you're taking it, but you have to be taking it, then the next step you can take also with purpose, because it becomes more clear. That makes sense?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I heard two things in that too, which is right, trusting the process, trusting the unfolding of what that is, and being able to trust that when we are in alignment with what we desire and what's true for us, and the next step does come, because we can trust that we're making the best decision that is for our greatest good, for the rest of everybody else's good. And that trust is really important. And then the other part is that I love that you said the word approach. And that's really what it is. How are we approaching anything? Is it from fear, or is it from love? That's really what it boils down to in my head, is those two things. So when we are even going to go do the laundry, are we approaching it with like dread and like discouragement because it's one more thing we need to do? Or, can we shift our mindset to think about the gratitude that you can easily go do your laundry, that have the ability to use a dryer and not go to the laundromat or something like that, right? You could have experienced another time in your life when you had to outsource these things and it took more time and more energy and effort. And finding the gratitude is definitely one of the ways that we talk in the community about practicing shifting. That's one way to have a small change in your mindset around what might be challenging you, to really just see that there is good, and it can continue to get good when you pay attention to the good.
Yeah. And it's the confirmation bias. The things we focus on, we find confirmation for how it's going to be, to cement it into our reality. And if we're constantly thinking, oh, all the things that can go wrong, well, our brains are really good at showing us how right we are. And we'll see all the ways that it can go wrong. But if we just shift into, hey, there's all these ways that things can go right in my life, and embrace those, then we'll just be finding evidence of it everywhere. And I just encourage people to try that exercise. Just wake up one day and say, okay, today I am just going to believe it's going to be an amazing day, and I'm going to look for things that make that so. And you'll write them down, because they will happen. You'll see them. It's little things like, you may find a penny on the street. Well, the penny may not seem like a lot, but it's the universe saying, hey, I think you might need some money. Do you want this little piece? Let me see if how bad you want it. And if you pick that penny up, the next time you may find, 50 cents in somebody's pants pocket while you're doing that laundry. And it just builds. And suddenly you find, somebody sends you $100 randomly in the mail. Or you take on a new client and you get, several $1,000s. It just like, it builds. And the more you appreciate the little confirmation biases that show up, and the bigger a deal you make, if you make a big deal about a penny, and you make a big deal about the 50 cents, and then, it's easy to get excited about $100 when it shows up randomly. But, that penny is just, a little bit further away, but it's a piece of the bigger puzzle. So
yeah, I think it's a good lesson of just remembering the little things that matter. And that's a great point to say, like, when we do an action hour, like I said, we always start in celebration, and some of our members are in there a couple times a day, because we have 18 action hours available every week for our members. So they could be in there a couple times a week, maybe even in a day, and we start in celebration every time. So they're not sharing the same celebrations. There's a little bit, even if it's deeper, going deeper in what they're truly celebrating, the details that happen when we start making those little shifts. Again, it goes to what you were saying about the next step comes, and it goes together. And that happens also when you start to write down those celebrations, or speak life to the things that are good in your world and that you're celebrating, because they build on each other. It does bring momentum to the change that you are creating, because everything has a ripple effect.
Yeah. And it doesn't just impact you, it impacts everybody around you, and how your life goes, and the things that you get to experience. It really just starts with simple, it starts with a decision, but beyond that, it's just little things that they don't cost anything to implement. And anybody can do it. You just have to decide that that's what you want to do. So your coaching goes around these communities. Is that what I'm hearing you say? So it's kind of group coaching, but
so I do group and I do one-on-one. The one-on-one is really with the breakthrough photography, is doing mindset coaching one-on-one. And we are inside of the community space. So even when I'm with my clients one-on-one, we start and end in those first and last 10 minutes in community, so that they're building more connections and then we have a structured time inside the 40 minutes of the hour that we're doing our recording and we're doing our learning together and the coaching. And then we check out with the community. So I married them in the fact that I'm all about helping women feel supported and connected in a safe, authentic space. And I bring my coaching within that as well. So they have the community as a support on top of my one-on-one support. And I have other leaders in my community, so I'm not the one hosting all of these action hours. They're building relationships with other coaches at the same time, that they get one-on-one coaching in my sessions.
That's great. Two thoughts on that. One
Yep.
is that communities are where all the magic happens. When you're in a group of people, it's not just you. It's not, all the pressure is not on you to do your homework, ask the right questions, make sure that you're learning, because you have other people out there who also have questions, and they may have questions and even answers to questions that you didn't even think to ask, but they can change your whole trajectory of where you're going because somebody else thought of it. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and I will say that that's one of the like my own personal awarenesses of my growth has really been making sure that I'm listening to my intuition. Like when I hear other people saying great ideas in these spaces and everywhere else that I'm at, um my past patterns would have been like, oh, that sounds great, I'm gonna go do that, and then I'd get distracted. And really making sure that I'm practicing trusting and listening to my own intuition to say, is that for me or is that a cool idea for my friend and I'm excited for them? So really that trust factor, that's one of my big growth points for myself. We've had the community for going on 5 years. In April we'll have our 5th business birthday. So that's just one of my own personal growth points that I know from inside the community and having and building a safe space for myself first and foremost. And then being able to gift that to our members has been just pivotal for my own personal growth journey and trusting myself.
And that is one of the dangers of groups, is that
Yeah.
the shiny object syndrome, they used to call it, but there is so much opportunity in the world, but the way to get really to make your biggest impact, you need to be laser focused and stay in your lane. Otherwise, you just dissipate all of your magic and it goes everywhere, and it may touch everyone, but the touch is so light that nobody really notices. Whereas if you're really laser focused on what it is that you do and you do really well, you can help that group of people that you're here to help. And I believe we're all here to help some group of people. We just have to find our tribes, and your tribe may grow, but it's going to start small. You're going to have the biggest impact with a small number of people in the beginning, and let it, ripple out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And start and I think a huge part of that is that, I always say that connection matters and it begins with you. Energy matters and it begins with you. So, right, like when we're looking, so if you're listening and you're like, I'm looking for that for myself, then think about and know yourself before you go looking is like my number one thing. Because if we come to a point where we think we found people that align with us, but we don't actually know, what are your core values? What are the things that you're passionate about that, at a deep level, you would connect with these people? Because you don't have to have everything in common with the people in your community, but there has to be, to some degree, that connection that really ties in, that draw to want to be in each other's energy in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, that's so true. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. You were talking about this topic, and it's like you need to be in community. You need to start small. You can grow. You will grow. You will have a bigger impact. And not everybody's your people. And oh man, I wish I could remember what it was. Have you ever been like, you're in your head and you're like tracking along with this thing, and then it's like you're somewhere else in the same conversation, and then you move back and you it's like dreams.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Especially when you're like leading the conversation, like you're facilitating. I have that a lot because I facilitate a lot of things. And I tend to have that, like, I'm like, ooh, thinking about their moment and like what they just said. I'm like, oh, that's so good. And then I go off on a little like mind journey. And then
Yes,
and I'm like, oh shoot, it's my turn again. I don't remember where we were.
yes, it's like that. But it was because it was so interesting. My brain is
Yeah.
just like, oh, let's look at that.
Yeah. When you replay it, it'll come, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I wonder what I was going with that.
Oh, good. It'll come back if it's
In the
meant
show
to.
notes. I love all that you're doing. It's really, I think, an impactful purpose. And I believe that we really do all have something that we're supposed to be doing. I think where I was going with it is that we all have something we're supposed to be doing. And it, yeah, it has to do with, and knowing the end from the beginning. That's where I was going with it. If you know what your end goal looks like, if you know what your mission is, if you know what what it will look like when you've achieved the thing that you're trying to achieve, it will keep you on track and keep you from the shiny object, and getting distracted. You know, if you have they used to call them mission statements, and everything needed to be run through your mission statement in order to make sure that you weren't getting sidetracked, because it's so easy these days. There's so many ways you can do things,
Right.
but not all of the ways will really be productive for you in what you're doing. And when you're in groups of people, gosh, more ideas will come to you because it's just like,
Yeah.
there's all this energy and all these creative people, and you need to be able to have something to synthesize it through. Some people have like the word of the year or the word of the month, or they have really organized people have business plans. But, let's get real. Not everybody does that.
Right.
Some people, their business plan is like a piece of paper and there's a goal. There's ideas of how to get there.
It,
You know?
yeah, and sometimes, right, think about that. If there's someone that is very detailed oriented, then they might want to create a vision board and like do all these extra things. And then the people that are like, I need to just know the direction, and they're trusting their intuition. They have a rough plan more than full on. Their GPS is set to take them where they're going. It's different for everyone in that way. Like they can take their journey how they want to take it
Yeah,
and
some
and run
people are
with
more
it.
explorers, and that's okay. The
Hmm.
world needs all of us. And
Yeah.
there's just a handful of things that if you can get those handful of things right, all of the other pieces will unfold in the way that you're supposed to have it unfold for you. And one of them is recognizing, how will I know when I've gotten there?
Hmm.
And that's everybody needs to answer that for themselves, and it will look different for everyone. For some people, it may be just as simple as uh, making another $500 a month,
Right.
you know, and they will have arrived at their destination. It and that's okay,
Right.
because that was all they needed to do. For some people, it's not even a monetary thing. It's like, I want to publish a book and be really famous for publishing a book, or photography. I want to have that one picture or that one image that is just like, it's the thing I'm known for. There, I have an Ansel Adams print on my wall, and he was a photographer, a black and
Mm,
white photographer, and
mm,
he did a lot of nature pictures. That
very
was
cool.
his one thing.
Yeah. That was a big part of like my journey when, right, I went from being fired to figuring out that I wanted to get into the photography world. Then from, the first 5 years of my journey, it was like just figuring out where I wanted to be in the industry. And then that's when I found, helping women in a confident way to see themselves. And I really niched down into empowerment boudoir. And then I really found out that mindset mattered so much around showing you your pictures. And even if, whatever you're telling yourself is what you're going to see. I could take a beautiful picture, but it matters what you're telling yourself. And then that's where I started to pair mindset. And then from there, it was like, I want to bring this to more of a community level to support women in being seen and being heard and feeling that's, you know, space to be authentic. And I think that when you were sharing, when you were talking about, how we know we have arrived, I'm a feelings person. Like I feel like I want to feel life more than see it. I actually want to feel it. So with feeling it, you know, that's a big part of my journey is leaning into emotions more and figuring out like, okay, but why am I feeling that? But then also releasing that and being able to be open to break through with whatever is there, whether it's seemingly negative or positive feelings, it's there to teach me something. And, that's part of my growth journey. And then figuring out like, this is something I feel like I am very passionate about doing. And then pairing it with like, what other ways can I support people? And that's where like the community came in and the podcast came in and, tying it in with still my passion of photography, because I'm grateful for virtual, but I'm first and foremost someone that wants to be in person with you and hug you and like have that in-person energy. So those were just really important aspects of my journey that I was listening to those nudges along the way. And I think that that's a big part of, how we had this community started pre-2020. We were ahead of that. We're going on our 5th year. We were ahead by over a year of knowing that a virtual community was important to have. And, that supported the opportunity for my world to expand and think about my vision from a different perspective, when it came to that time of, where everyone needed to think about pivoting things or to making changes and, how to do that in a way that we still grow and expand is far from easy. It's challenging, and that we can accept the challenge and, bring people along with us on the journey, I think is really important too, to show others that like we can do it messy and imperfect. And that's where we all start.
Yeah, everybody starts at the beginning. No
Yeah.
one, no one who's at the very pinnacle of their success got there overnight. I am old enough, and I lived in San Diego at the time when Tony Robbins first got started. I
Okay.
went to one of his first seminars, and there were maybe 50 or 60 people in there. And he started talking about Mother Teresa and Captain Coffee. And Captain Coffee was my neighbor, exactly who he was.
Oh, wow.
He was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam era, and
Okay.
he was one of the first coaches, life coaches I ever met. And he retired from the military. He was in the Navy. Um, he he really helped people make the best of bad situations, I guess is the best way to put it. But
Mm.
Tony Robbins started at the beginning. He was writing his book, and he wasn't all that in a bag of chips in those days. But he has made something really huge, and he has impacted so many lives because he stayed at it. He knew what his lane was, and he continued to learn. And I know he hired coaches too, because nobody gets
Right.
to that point just magically. You hire people to help you along and teach you stuff. In the old days, people used to go to college and get a degree and work in a field. Well, I think that's changing a lot. And now you can learn from a lot of different people. You just pick who you're going to hire as your teacher. It's about the same price, honestly. By the time you get all said and done, you could go to college and have all the student debt, or you can pick who you need to learn from because you know what you want to accomplish, and hire those people to help you. And you're going to get there faster and easier. They've already walked that path. So,
Yeah, exactly. They have the experience and can share, where were their hiccups, where were their challenges, and how can you know, build strength in knowing that you can have a shortcut to,
yeah.
choose something that's more in alignment with the path that you actually want to have, instead of spending all the time trial and error after you get done taking the classes. Now you can have a mentor and someone to really guide you to making more of an aligned decision, but also for the market, so to say, when you're there. And that's what I did. I don't have a degree in photography. I went and did night classes for all different kinds of photography to start. And then I went and found a specialized trainer of boudoir photographers. And I learned how to create a boutique premiere experience in my local area that, started to really build. And then I built it out from there in what really felt right to me, with the mindset and the breakthrough sessions, and making it our own after we even have a mentor, I think, is a whole nother lesson in itself. And again, of trusting your intuition and trusting your gut to say, this feels right for me. I learned something from this person or this experience. And, moving forward, you get to choose how you're going to actually implement those changes or not in your life.
Mhm. I agree with you totally. So you have a Facebook community that
Yeah.
helps people. It's
Mhm.
the Choose on Purpose growth community. I love that. You want to talk about that just a little bit? And
Yeah, so this is
people how
a
they can find it.
Facebook public community group that we've started to really be able to start to gather other people that are focused on living intentionally, right? Having focus in what are you showing up every day excited about? What are you celebrating for a win? The simplicity of sharing a celebration, setting your intention, and taking inspired action toward that thing or that feeling that you are working towards. This is a Facebook community where we start to share. I share about the guests that I have on my podcast, and inspiration that happens in all the areas that I travel. And that's shared in that Facebook community page. So would love to invite you to come and be a part of that.
And I'll make sure I put that link in the show notes. So Becky, what is the one thing you hope the audience takes away from this conversation?
Well, the one thing I would say is listen to your intuition. And I love car analogies. So I'm always talking about trusting your inner GPS, and that's your gut, your purpose, and your soul. So tapping in, giving yourself some space to breathe, and really think about, how it feels for you to take the next step, right? Not the next 15, but the next one, and choose intentionally when it aligns with you to take that next step. That's what I would love to leave with everyone.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jill.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.